from New York. Except for not the New York part.
Not quite, yeah.
Just me and Don today for folks that are starting to hop in. But that'll be okay. I think you'll be fine with that. Let me grab the URL and we'll hit the go button.
Okay, yeah. Just let me retweet it.
Okay. Get.
Okay, yeah. Just let me.
Here's the URL. Thanks for joining us, y'all.
Such a weird chart, man.
Yeah, I know. Okie dokie. That's been tweeted out. Thanks for being here, y'all. Hang with us for 1 second while we finalize everything. Perfect. All right. You ready to go?
Yep, I am.
We are ready to go. Excellent. Let me turn my mic up a little bit.
Yeah, we're getting fewer and fewer people every week.
Somebody's saying that in the chat. Where'd everybody go? Don't worry. All right.
They'll show back up again at some point.
They'll be here. Don't worry about it. 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to Weekly Open. I'm Brian, aka Ledger. Don, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's great to be with you here today. It's great to be with our folks joining us for Weekly Open as we analyze markets. Before we get to it, let me say thank you to Blockfolio. They're our partner for this and all episodes of Weekly Open. All you got to do is go to weeklyopen.com/Blockfolio and you can make a trade there today. Go direct from one asset to another with a delightful mobile trading experience. They've got all the assets that you need. Whether you're in the US or internationally, it's available for you. And you get all the same portfolio tracking features that you've known and loved since 2014. Their books are completely powered by FTX. Thanks to Blockfolio for being our partner for Weekly Open. Go to weeklyopen.com/Blockfolio and download it today. All right, Don, it's just you and I today. We're holding down the fort.
Yep. I mean, the market's been pretty boring in the last few days, so I think we'll manage just barely.
Yeah, it's why don't you give us the rundown on Bitcoin and then we'll go from there. What have we seen since last week? We did get a new high. We just haven't seen the follow through, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's just been, in my opinion, what we're going to see is just some merciless chop. And I've been saying this for weeks now, and I still think that holds true. That said, we've made a new high on the weekly chart, so that's good. As long as that holds, I think we're still in the clear. If you're putting off log charts, it kind of looks ridiculous.
Yeah.
But like this, it's fine still. You wouldn't want to see that new weekly support get broken, I think, or in general this area, which would invalidate. I think you've had like an ascending triangle, didn't you? Like someone had it last week. I don't remember who it was.
Yeah, like a 4-hour, even a daily time frame. You can talk yourself into this being a
this kind of thing.
ascending triangle, or maybe even a I mean, it looks fine on those mid time frames. This is one of those things, though. I run into this often where you get like something that feels super bullish on mid time frames, but then you zoom out to the higher time frames and it just looks like it needs more time, like it's overextended, and it's not expansionary, right? Like that's 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks, and now we have a new high. So now we're basically to the point where you need follow through, like with some gusto, right?
Totally agreed.
Because otherwise you have 4 weeks of consolidation. You could call those 3 inside weeks off of that last bullish candle a month ago. And when you break out of that, it should follow through and like play out the measured move or whatever of that mid time frame breakout. Otherwise, you're at risk in my mind of some kind of, you know, swing failure or whatever, and mean reversion, really filling out the lows back to where your cursor conveniently is in the high 40s, you know?
I think in general, this, like, filling this out wouldn't be terrible. I mean, it would feel terrible being in it because, I mean, yeah, it's big pullback, but like, given the price history, I wouldn't mind this one bit. Like, let's say this fails here, breaks down, consolidates in there, and then goes back up. Like, that would make me think that we can have like another year of upside, just straight up. If we just go crazy from here, I mean, then maybe we get the blow off top if that's what it's gonna be, right? Like, let's say this just breaks out. I mean, what else is it gonna do, right? It's getting so vertical, or it was so vertical, and now it's going so much sideways that, I mean, maybe.
The interesting aspect of if we do break down like that is we'll have a lot of people calling the end of the bull market, which if we're to have reaccumulation, I guess you kind of want people to be calling the end of the bull market, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, that would be like, I think that would be the most constructive thing to do. Just give it some time. I mean, imagine you have like a breakout of this kind. You have like a 300% increase, and then you just consolidate in that range. That sounds incredibly bullish to me. It's just, it would suck because price would go down a little first, but we'll see.
It would, yeah. You're speaking my thoughts here because, you know, I don't want to like root for down candles or whatever, but it would make the whole trend seem a little healthier to me. And I don't know. That weekly just gets me shook, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, where is the room for movement here? And it so clearly feels like down is the clearest path for you know, risk reward, right?
Yeah.
Like if it moves up, what are people going to be hyped about? Like 67, 70? I don't know. Like, is it just going to
100K maybe? I mean, I'd love for it to just completely go ballistic, because honestly, like, these blow off tops are easier to trade. I mean, it's going to be hard to nail the top exactly, but you don't have to, right? Like, let's say this goes completely ballistic and blows the top out, right? Goes to like 80, 90, 100K. I would love to trade that, but then the aftermath would suck hard, I think, because I mean, you would get, I think, a massive pullback. Oops. And then it looks like this, and everyone's like, oh shit, do I actually like still want to hold this, whatever? And then we go through the same thing here again in another range, right? I mean, so it's basically, for me, it's like, okay, do we spend some time here, consolidate, chill a little bit, and then push up and just keep on going? Or do we blow off top and then break down? I don't think we go to 100K, consolidate there, and then just go to 200, 300, 400.
That makes it too easy.
Yeah, it just sounds, I mean, given the price history of Bitcoin, like, you rarely get these rallies in the first place, right? These straight up rallies, you get like pullbacks in between. We haven't had any of those. So that's my view on it. On the weekly time frame, it still looks good, right? As long as it's above that support, it still looks good. On the daily, it's kind of like, this is just straight up chop. You can draw whatever you want to. For me, it's just chopping through pretty much anything. So it's pretty hard to call it. But
where's your decision point on something like this? If it does try to break down, like, are you basically, would you be out if you're trying to play this to manage your capital for lowest drawdowns? Basically, you'd be out now and wait for a break up to confirm getting back in, right? Like if you were to try to maximize your positioning.
I think I would, like, for me, I'm still in, because I have no idea if I would be able to play the breakout. It's really, really hard when it's chopping like this, right? You could have thought this is the breakout, the recent one on 10th of April, and you get completely run over, and you're like, okay, now it has to go down, and you sell, and it goes back up, and you're like, oh, what do I do now? I mean, everyone has gone through that before. So for me, I want to get invalidated on the bullish side of things, and I think this is a pretty good level for it now. The best one and the most cautious one, I think, is this one. So 54K. If that gets taken out, I think we're just heading into the lower range, into the lower weekly range. Before that happens, I'll just continue assuming up until proven otherwise. But I don't like how XRP moved. I don't like how Bitcoin Cash looks, like Litecoin. Whenever they go up and Bitcoin is just boring, it tends to be at least the short to midterm top.
Yeah, kind of the last bastions, like looking for a pump, and that's when you feel like at least dominance is going to pick up soon. whether that's up or down, like your safety in altcoins probably is diminishing.
Yeah. Whenever the trash pumps, basically, it's starting to get to an end. But the question is, how high can it pump, right? I mean, I still own Litecoin. Hate to say it, but yeah. So for me, it's kind of, I feel like there's a good chance that we're just going to roll over, or maybe break out and do like a fake out and then roll over. But I'll just chance it and be like, okay, I'm going to stay in until 54.
Yeah. You're basically saying that you're going to have discipline if it does break down. But you're not going to try to be a genius, like you're not going to like catch the Pico top with the way that you're talking about it, which is fine.
Yeah. What's your strategy?
Yeah. I mean, one extra view that I think I'll add is, you could try to say that there's some kind of wedge here because, we made a higher high, and now we're lower. So if we make that higher high, that's one more type of, pretty strong fake out that you could get would be if you kind of head back towards the top of that range, get a underwhelming pump, 65 to 70. Everybody's calling for 100K plus, whatever, but you're still actually in this mid time frame kind of wedge like consolidation. That could be the type of thing that agrees with what you're saying in terms of how to get liquidity for a move down. The moving average wise, like we're total chop, like you talked about. The biggest thing this entire bull run that's been driving me nuts is that we still have not managed to test the 20-week moving average, which we did all through 2017. That marked many like capitulatory bottoms, and by the time we got too far away from it, it was the end of the bull market. And here the 20 week has not caught up, nor have we dumped down to it at any point. The closest we got was back when we went to 29. We didn't get to that moving average, and that's just all because after we broke 10K, we just went so fast, and that's all a moving average is. But in a healthy market, I like to see the asset test those moving averages because it gives dip buyers an opportunity to buy the dip. And when they don't have the opportunity to buy the dip, they end up FOMOing in, and then they're underwater quickly when it does dip, And I feel like we're in this maybe reaccumulation, but it's like vertical reaccumulation, and it's just very scary, very scary up here because it feels like if people are reaccumulating at the highs and then the highs let go, all of a sudden you could have a lot of people underwater, and then it moves more rapidly to the downside than you wish that it would,
Yeah.
And level wise, like I like the 20 week, and if that 38 to 40K range, like I don't think it's protected. I don't think we're just gonna like not have any chance of going that low. Like I think from a pure chart perspective, we could absolutely go to 40 or below, and that's a 50% haircut from 60K. That would be very scary for people from a chart perspective. This is not my fundamentals. This is nothing. It's just purely looking at the chart. I'd be looking at that 38 to 42 and say, hey, give it to me. If I take out my own bias, my own positioning, all that stuff. We're also seeing incredibly reduced volume. I'm looking at the index here. We peaked volume at 38K, moved down to 29, and the whole move up from there, we've continued to have lower volume. So my question is, what's next. And I've been, we've talked about it over and over again. I've been waiting on this Ethereum breakout, been pretty Ethereum heavy. We got the higher high, but now what? Just sitting here up at 2100, 2150. Basically, I would like to see some follow through on all of this. And similarly, I'm still exposed, but I'm trying to think like what's my role in this market? Like, am I willing to take a 30, 40, 50% haircut? And I don't really want to, you know what I mean? It's just being honest. Like I'm not in a place where I feel cozy taking that type of haircut. That's a lot of money. So people have to manage their risk themselves and see like, what's your potential upside? What's your potential downside? Don, another thing that's just from a narrative perspective, interesting to me is, on Up Only, we had a bunch of people on. Everybody had pretty bullish long-term mindset. Light Crypto was talking about his basically fear that Coinbase's IPO was going to be a local market top, like a sell the news type of event, and also translate down onto Bitcoin. And the chat and the comments and everything else was just like, you stupid bear, like, how dare you? You don't know what you're talking about. And it just makes my senses tingle, like, I feel like maybe everybody's a little bit too long and would be very nervous if we broke down.
The thing is, something that Cret said to me like a while ago was like, no one in this market that has gotten in the last few like months, maybe 12 months, basically, has really experienced a big drawdown, right?
Yeah.
So back in 17, everyone was kind of trained. You get a drawdown, you buy the dip, right? Yep. Nowadays, people are trained. You get trained to see a tiny dip,
a micro dip,
and then they go all in. And then if something like this ever happens, right, we're going to see so many liquidations. It's going to be insane. So, I mean, it's the same for me, right? TA wise, I look at this and I'm like, okay, if you're getting 38, take it. That's the place that you want to be buying.
But who's
in
left?
My head? Yeah, in my head, it's like, okay, dude, like that's crazy, right? That's already a huge drawdown of like 40%. But then again, like, I mean, it wouldn't be something new. But yeah, I mean, whenever Light speaks, I listen. I really value his opinion. So, I mean, it has me a little bit shook as well. We'll see how the market reacts to it, right? I think it's going to be I can't imagine like stuff like BNB and some of the exchange tokens to go on like this forever, right? It just seems like, okay, it's pretty damn high already. And if you're expecting the the Coinbase thing basically to make this rip higher, I think you're overextending quite a bit. But
yeah, I completely agree in that. I think we're due for some shenanigans. I think the Coinbase IPO is the perfect timing to have shenanigans. I'm not trying to sit here and be a bear. I'm a macro bull, and I'm feeling like I need to be a little more cautious than I have been. And I think we could see rotation. I think we could see some stuff still make like Bitcoin relative gains in the altcoin landscape. We've seen DeFi stuff like be, really underperform for quite a while. But it was, if you look at it, like I like to use Aave as a sample. We've done that on the show many times. You just pulled up Sushi. Like Aave hasn't made a new high since February 10th or 11th. And I've got it pulled up here on the stream now. It's like, it looks like it's consolidating. It might be ready for a move up. You go look at it versus BTC. It made it all the way back down to its 200-day moving average, even below the prior all-time highs, and it looks like it could curl up. So maybe there's rotation that's involved there, as long as Bitcoin fails to break down or break up. Like if Bitcoin basically continues in this tight structure, I think those types of trades could exist. Your Sushi one there, that looks like a bearish retest based on the way you've drawn it. Is that your sentiment as well?
I mean, I've had this range. Do you remember, like we talked about it like back somewhere like way back. Honestly, like I'm not entirely sure if it's a bearish retest or not. Like usually when you get like these breakdowns, they go like this and then they go, and this was pretty shallow of like a move downwards into a retest. But yeah, it looks like one. And it would have to reclaim this for me to be bullish on it versus Bitcoin. Yeah. And that's not a tall ask, right? I mean, that's just, how much is that? Like
1 day,
6-7%. That's like nothing. And I think that's completely worth waiting for.
Yeah, I have a very similar setup on my own sushi BTC chart, and I just kept the pennant that I was interested in a while back. Because when it broke down from it, I was like, all right, it was basically my signal not to care about sushi for a while. The 200-day moving average versus BTC has just been sitting down here, like looking for attention. And this looks like it could be a bearish rejection off the 20-day moving average versus BTC. And this is not, again, I'm not trying to sit here and be Mr. Bear. I'm just, it's not telling you to get in yet. Like you said, you can wait for that confirmation. You don't have to buy the Pico bottom of a move like that. I'd like to see if we're going to have this rotation trade. It doesn't look like it's equal for all coins or whatever, like we're already starting to see pretty significant rotation between them. And I think we'll continue to see that as long as Bitcoin and ETH haven't made a decision. And then I think once those do make a decision, I think we'll see the correlations pick up quite a bit.
Yeah. I mean, whenever you have I feel like that there's been a rotation into trash, basically. I mean, you look at XRP, we talked about this last week, and Luke was super bullish on it. I was like, I could see this really go up. I think pretty much everyone was the same page on that one. And
so it's just like a bullish reclaim, and now it's going to super moon.
I mean, chart wise, this is support now.
Yeah. XRP folks are claiming some kind of victory as well in their case, like the SEC case, because they got discovery approval, so that now the SEC has to turn over documentation about how they've talked about Bitcoin and Ethereum and compare that to XRP. I guess to see, like, I don't know, but they're claiming victory there. So I think that was part of the reason for the pump. By the way, I freaking love when you like switch a box from red to green or green to red. It changes my whole view.
Yeah, it's insane, right? Yeah, it's the same thing. Like, I made this for a reason. Like, back in the day, I had just gray boxes, and I don't know, like, just visually, it just turns your entire view on something upside down. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, now we have this support, right? If this dips, I mean, I hate to say it, right? But it's going to be a buy as long as it doesn't lose that again. And then where does it go, right? And the thing is, like, have you seen the XRP USD chart? It broke every single resistance left.
It just smashed right through.
Yeah. I mean, this looks like it's probably going to go to all-time high, right?
Yeah.
Now,
it's gross.
It really is. I mean, $1 is going to be great support. Probably going to bounce from there. And then, I mean, yeah, XRP.
One of the things that I feel like might be like kind of a Max Payne type of scenario is if this is basically like a repeat of summer 2020 for Bitcoin, where like you get the break up and then it's up for like 3 days and then more chop and then down for a day or two and then more chop. Like, it just ends up being this giant patternless reaccumulation. I mean, we really did go from April 2020 at 8,800 to October 2020 at 12K. Like, that's not a gigantic move. And within that, the entire move was over the course of like 4 days, It just wasn't pretty back then. And then it just went vertical. And part of me thinks that is also the way that we could catch up to the moving averages this time. You break up with Coinbase and then you break, you chop and break down again or whatever. And it just, you're sitting in summer, like late summer 2021, and finally your moving averages start to catch up, and then you make a bigger decision then. And that would give plenty of wiggle room for the XRPs of the world to continue to moon and like piss everybody off. It's just like, I just feel like it would be the most interesting from a market psychology standpoint. People are just constantly waiting on the Bitcoin move to tell everything else what to do. And meanwhile, you have these massive altcoin rotations occurring.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes sense, right? And for me, it's kind of like, at some point, this has stop going up completely vertically. So I mean, might as well do it now. But
yeah, the only other thing the only other thing I'm thinking about now is my January 1st prediction for Bitcoin on the year was 66K or so. So like if we did that with the Coinbase pump and then that was the yearly top and we just chopped sideways for the next 6 months, like that would be hilarious, because I basically gave up on that 60K prediction in January because I was like, well, it just did most of it in a month. So like, obviously it's going higher now, but now it'd be funny if it ended up being right, like just feed into that with the Coinbase IPO and then go into a 6-month reaccumulation.
Yep.
I mean, gosh, so many people would be upset.
Yep. I'd honestly love it. Give it some time. Give some time for the altcoins to kind of cycle through. I mean, maybe like my favorite kind of case would be like for a mini alt season while this dips. Like let's say Bitcoin dips and then you see the Bitcoin pairs take off on some of these. And then Bitcoin crushes it again on the way up like this. And then you have altcoins go off in here and altcoins get killed again on the way up. Like that kind of stuff. We've seen it all like so many times. I'd love it. Not entirely sure if we're going to get it, but I mean, I could see it.
Yeah, let's talk about that alt season concept, because I mean, we've been in alt season, but it's not like it's been across the board, no matter what, on Bitcoin relative pairs, right?
Yeah.
And the Bitcoin relative pairs component of that is an important one to consider, because back in 2017, when the big alt seasons, things mooned relative to Bitcoin. They didn't just moon versus the dollar. And so far we've seen, we've certainly seen some stuff go up massively, like you talked about with BNB, but we haven't seen it cycle down to like every mid cap and every low cap and like the full genre. And I think that's possible that after we get this initial impulse, we get back to chopping, then you see altcoins cycle off of the like big layer one moves, or like the giant altcoin moves that we've seen so far, and cycle that down to all the trash. And like, I don't think we've seen that season really occur quite yet.
Yeah, agreed.
And when I look at dominance, I mean, it really did peak January 4th, and then it broke, I'm looking at a weekly, broke the 200-week moving average. If you want to apply TA, to me, this does look like, I mean, it's both a lower low. It's also a breakdown of like a head and shoulders type of thing. I think people could call the end of the altcoin game if that retests, like if dominance retests, and it could give you a great entry to have like much bigger moves in altcoins. So this aligns decently for me for Coinbase IPO is your, I mean, that's just in a couple days. But that ends up being kind of your pivotal event. Dominance kind of recovers, right, as Bitcoin is volatile. So anytime Bitcoin's volatile, I'm basically going to be betting on dominance going up, whether it's down or up. And then after that kind of settles down, that's when your alts continue, and it ends up looking like a perfect retest on this dominance chart.
I like it. I mean, whenever Bitcoin goes completely crazy, altcoins get wrecked, right? And it's going to be the same here too. Like if you get like what I drew earlier, like this, and then I said, okay, mini alt season in here, how it usually plays out is you get Bitcoin getting wrecked, or like even if it pumps, same on the opposite side. And then for like most of that move, right, on this move, altcoins just get completely fucked. But then they get bought up quicker at the bottom of the move and then rally beyond Bitcoin. And that is usually how it plays out. It's not as simple as, okay, Bitcoin goes down, altcoins go up, because whenever Bitcoin goes down, usually altcoins go down with it. And the same, like when Bitcoin goes up, not the same is true, right? Bitcoin, you can kind of see it in the USD pairs nowadays. When Bitcoin just starts running and then the USD pairs just like start like crawling up and can't keep up with it. So whenever Bitcoin chills or like finds a bottom, then the altcoins really start ticking off. I like that if that happens, like you painted out.
Yeah. So another interesting, what does this mean for Bitcoin macro thing is that, we've been following the Dixie pretty much every week on this show. And the Dixie looks like it's breaking down, also failing its 200-day after a breach above. And this just looks like a failed move. Like it had some kind of short squeeze, and then it looks pretty bad here. It looks pretty bearish. And again, this is relative, but the fiat currencies as well, individually, like they're all weak, but even the Dixie, which is the relative basis, also doesn't look very good here. So this could be supportive that the move up, the next move is up for Bitcoin, and then fakes out. I don't know. What do you think of it? I guess you're still treating that 90 level as support, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is it for me, but I generally don't like whenever like something breaks out and then retests immediately. It's the same thing in crypto too. Whenever you get a breakout and immediately do this, I'm like, I mean, I don't mind it. I'm fine with buying it, but it's always like, it should have really gone.
It doesn't feel great if it's easy to get filled.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. And that is gonna be the case here. In general, it makes sense in my macro view, whatever, in my head, it makes sense for this to go down in general. So my world makes more sense when this is not doing too well. So I don't mind if this just starts breaking down again. And the thing is, if this starts breaking down beyond support, then it's really, really in trouble. Where does it go from there? Next area is what,
86?
80? Yeah, this area here.
Mm-hmm.
So you're that's a big move. But then again, this is not my market. It's been pretty responsive to TA, which is really weird for a dollar index kind of thing. But
I think eventually, like you say, the dollar has a good bit of room down to go. Even from a competitiveness perspective, because since this is a relative chart, it's probably more threats to the dollar than there's been in quite a while. But yeah, I mean, the rapid move up that we had going into a couple of weeks ago looks to have truly settled down. So that kind of best case scenario, maybe just continued chop. But I think we could fully retest down to 90, 50. And then if that breaks down, we go down back to 89, new lows. That would be very bullish for Bitcoin, at least on the macro.
One thing I've noticed in the last few weeks is that everyone on the street seems to be talking about stocks and seems to be talking about markets in general, which is really weird. Yeah, I'm having trouble with it as well. I was out just before the show. I was out getting food, and then people jogged by me and they were talking about stocks, and stocks only go up, basically, about all of those memes. And whenever I hear that, I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah, it's very scary. And
yeah,
I mean, stocks had this major impulse the last 2 weeks. Last week, it just gapped up and then went up all week. The S&P 500 did. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with that. There's a lot of warning signs here to me that say this is, this is creating liquidity for big money to get out or something like that. I want to fade it so bad, but that's on the long term, that's not the greatest thing to do. You're usually not going to be very happy trying to fade that type of move. But similar to what we just saw in Bitcoin, and maybe this is a prequel for what we saw, what we'll see in Bitcoin is this looked like basically vertical reaccumulation all year until a break up the last 2 weeks. And maybe it is as easy as Bitcoin's going to follow the exact same thing the S&P 500 did. And this is the blow off top, or I've heard, or crack up boom is what the macro voices guy likes to say. Maybe that's what it is. Does that mean you want to you want to step in here and be the bid at this type of level? Are people really thinking this is now where I need to buy, or are they thinking, is this where I need to be taking profit? How do you consider what the common narrative is going to be for others, and who's buying these levels? Is it smart money or dumb money?
I mean, I think it's dumb money. The thing is, we're in such a paradigm, in a new paradigm where it's maybe they're right? It's so hard
question
to
everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's been this kind of dumb money has been right kind of movement has been occurring all year, right? Mm-hmm. Where the biggest winner has been degens trading GME, trading all these meme stocks, and it's like, I mean, this isn't looking too pretty, but yeah,
but
it's been
still it's still not like totally died from where many of them bought, and many of those people are still trying to play that game as if it still has the same issues. Like it was all like liquidity trash and short squeeze and stuff, and people are still trying to play, and it now looks like it's just going to be a massive distribution.
That looks terrible. Holy shit.
Yeah,
I hadn't
so
even
bad.
looked at it in a long while, but yeah.
I feel like eventually those folks have to lose. Like that's crude of me, but I feel like eventually they have to lose.
I agree. I mean, that's the thing, right? They always lose. It sucks to say, and it sucks to know, because I mean, it just kind of feels like everything's stacked up against the normal man. But I think that's just how the markets work, right?
Yeah.
They always get run over. Even more so when you play like that, when you're like all in something, whatever. If you don't pull out at some point, you're gonna lose. It's just how it is.
Yeah. And, before the chat, is like, oh, look, Don and Ledger are just like perma bear right now. One, we're not perma bear. We're both in. We're just trying to think in game, like you look at a chart like this and you try to analyze like, hey, we see volatility coming soon. That's what I think both of us see. In fact, let's just toss on the Bollinger Band width. That's a fun one to throw on a chart sometimes.
It's not been this tight in months, right?
Yeah, it's really come down quite a bit. Got it pulled up now. Yeah, the top of the year, the beginning of the year, it expanded, and it's basically been going down since February. It's not like a multi-year low or anything, but it's on the lows in terms of volatility is significantly down. I'm going to show your chart, and I'm going to try to pull up realized volatility versus implied volatility and see if I can get anything for us on that.
Nice.
But yeah, it's like, I don't know, Don. Volatility soon, and volatility is it's usually not great for it's just usually not great for altcoins, and it can be a little dicey.
Yeah, I wonder how the ETH thing is gonna play out. I drew this like ages ago, like when we're trading down there, this head and shoulders kind of thing. I want this to be invalidated so bad. But so far it hasn't, but it needs to. I mean, if we get like a retest here and then rally, that'd be nice. But right now I'm kind of struggling with this as well. I want to see this break out before I get like super bullish on the altcoins. But like some of the altcoins have put in like really nice setups. I like Litecoin a lot. Beginning, was it this week or last week?
Last
days
week,
of
I think
like,
you were talking about.
Yeah. I mean, you just get like the first resistance gets broken. And the reason why I like Litecoin so much is because of where is it? The cycle low that we hit. Like whenever I see that, I'm like, okay, it just has to smash one resistance and I'm gonna be bullish on it. And it's what it did. And it even retested intra-week for a nice entry. Mm-hmm. So it's not really explosive yet, and I want it to be. But like that is not bad looking in itself right now. But it needs some follow through, because if this just fails again, like what we're gonna do, I think is just gonna fuck off, and then it's gonna be a painful capitulation, I think. So this is basically the last chance to be bullish for a long time, I think, on price wise, not time wise, because if this breaks down, it's gonna break down quick, I think. But like price wise, you're gonna be bullish Litecoin at like down here, or you're not gonna be.
Yeah.
Like in general.
So IV was pretty unattractive for people that wanted to buy options for months, and now we're at 4-month lows on implied volatility, which basically means the market's not expecting huge moves. But when IV goes down enough, it's like a squeeze becomes a spring. You kind of expect it to expand out of that at some point. Mm-hmm. This is based on Deribit Insights using skew. I didn't have the actual skew chart popped up. I think they put it behind a paywall now. There is a IV versus realized volatility chart out there somewhere, but yeah, it's implied volatility is low, which usually is going to be a determining factor to say we should expect some volatility to come. Basically, that means that you can if you wanted to be long volatility, if you wanted to be an options buyer, it's a decent time to do it. Like, it's more affordable to buy the options now because the pricing on those is based on the implied volatility. But they're not forward looking; they're rear looking. So when you're buying, you're buying options based on the past volatility, but you're expecting upcoming volatility. That's going to give you an advantage for that long vol trade. So if you're directionally correct in what volatility you're buying, then you can do quite well. Even if you try to go not even be directional with what you're doing.
Yeah.
There's strategies for that as well. But it's just something to watch out for. Like, I'm more than anything expecting volatility. And I don't know, the 4 hour tells me to long the balls off of it. And the weekly tells me be very afraid.
I absolutely hate when that's the case. When you have like two different views on two different time frames, and like, ah, shit, what do I do now?
Yeah.
And whenever I'm in that situation, I just sit tight because, I mean, even looking at the 4 hour, right? I mean, there have been people slain over this in the last few hours, I would say. Like, these kind of spikes, they just fuck people over so badly. Like, all of the high leverage kind of low time frame
the higher
guys.
your leverage, the more dangerous this is going to be.
Yep. I think in general, this market has shown the high leveraged apes, or at least a lot of them, that that they're in the wrong profession. I think a lot of the 50x, 60x, 100x people, they're already gone, even though Bitcoin went up from 10K to 60K.
Yeah, that's one other element to consider of this too, is that typically when people get on high leverage, even if they're directionally right initially, we fade that very quickly. Because what happens is the places where there's highest leverage, like a Bybit or whatever, it'll be leading by like $500, and you're like, well, we can't do anything else until we wash them out. So it kind of mutes the pump on it. This leads me to, the more I look at this, the more I think we're going to follow some kind of pattern like this. Like, we break up, all the degenerate leverage apes are FOMOing in 62, 63, something like that. And then we're leading like $800 derivatives versus cash. And then you start to see the weakening of that, and the positioning unrolls a bit, and that gives you your velocity for the dump. I don't want that to be true, but that seems like the most likely path to me.
I mean, I'd honestly love to get some high time frame pullback, just because it would make buying so easy again. Because it's so easy to buy Bitcoin when it seems to be dead to most. Like, that's where I do really well, and I haven't really had like much chance during this move up. Like, I've almost always caught these 40% pullbacks, right?
Yeah.
And this rally in here, I've been like ready to buy any of it, and I just didn't get it. So it's been a little bit painful for me to kind of sit there being like, okay, I really want to deploy like a lot, but I can't.
Don wants to step in and be the bid, but he's not doing it at the freaking highs.
Yep. The funny thing is, like, if I did it at like whatever, like 27 or something, I'd be up a shitload with that, right? But it's like, trading wise, like, I look at this from a trading perspective more than anything. And I'm more than happy. Like, let's say this really pulls back 40%, right? Goes back to like these highs, whatever. I feel much more secure buying there than during any other part of this. So it's like, as a trade, it's really good. As an investment, you're gonna, like, if you don't have a stack in this, and if you don't have like any kind of Bitcoin that you want to be having, it's probably not the strategy for you, right? The way to go when you're trying to invest, in my opinion, is just buying it. And then if it dips, it dips. And if it dips hard, you just buy more.
Yeah.
It's not how you trade.
I think,
but it's,
I think this is a dip that I want to start looking for post Coinbase move. Like give the Coinbase IPO. I mean, it's probably the most anticipated IPO since like Facebook or something. You know, like it's huge. And I want to give that time, let it play out. Maybe we pop up and go 60, 66, 70, 75. I don't freaking know. I agree. I think the first margin trade I'm going to want to take is bouncing off this 20-week moving average. That 38 spot, once we start dumping, literally everyone is going to call for it. You know, like
Yep.
literally every single person on earth is going to look at it and say, like, I'm going to long this. And that's what they're going to want. And what I like is that the 20-week will be sitting there. And there's also that weekly low at 45. So, like, by the time this all could occur, maybe the 20-week will be up to 45. So maybe that'll end up being your, like, GOAT level entry, but not quite to where, like, all the people who exit late are then seeking. You know, they exit 48 and they're like, I'll buy 38, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that, like a nice wick down to 45 or so when the 20-week moves up. And that'll be so good for the long-term trend for that to occur, even though it'll be extraordinarily painful if we're still like overly exposed, or if you're exposed via derivatives through like altcoins or margin or whatever. Yeah, that would be very painful. But we're going to get that eventually. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's this week. The more I look at the low time frames, I think we probably will pop up. But I think too many people will be right if we pop up. So I just don't think they'll be right for very long on that move up.
Well said. Is there anything that you're watching on the altcoin front?
It looks like there's some rotation trade happening, maybe back from BSC stuff to ETH stuff. There's a lot of talk about gas fees coming back down a little bit. So, you know, like the MEV conversation popped up, Rook and Archer, some of those MEV plays, but gas under 100 and, you know, Uniswap instantly went up 15%. Aave started to look really good. And that makes me think like maybe there's some hunger for a little DeFi rotation. Sushi's up 7%. So yeah, like I think that conversation could get interesting. You've got a Uni BTC chart you want to pull up. Yeah, I mean, it's big. That's a big move for Uniswap.
Wow, yeah, I'm impressed. Like even more so, like we had this fade of the news, right?
Right.
And then fell into support, bounced out of it, chopped a little bit, but that's not looking too terrible.
No, I think it looks good. The one I like Aave more than Uni because Aave is still like number 30 something on the total market cap.
Yeah.
Uni had that Uni 3.0 hype that just like really sustained. However, that Uni relative to BTC chart looks really good. Overall, though, I think I like the relative value on Aave better. As like, I typically think of Aave as Uni and then Aave in terms of blue chip, but Uni's number 8, Aave is like number 34. You know, Aave could double, which is a lot for these blue chips. Aave could double in market cap and get back to its prior USD all-time highs, and no one would blink, you know? Whereas if Uni goes to 60 billion, like a double from here, that's a high market cap, you know?
That's insane, yeah.
That would immediately make everything else look cheap, right? If Uni goes up that much, then it's like, well, crap, Sushi's a $2 billion cap, so Sushi needs to go 10x again. You know, that...
Like the curse of the top 10.
It's always like once you get there, it's like, now what? You know, like your double from here makes it challenging. So am I FOMOing a 10, 12% candle on Uni? No. Am I interested in Sushi and Aave and other stuff where the chart looked like crap recently and now looks great? Yes, I am. On the relative pair, though, like we've already talked about, Sushi's not proven it. And the dollar actually says the same thing. The dollar says Sushi needs to really go above like 16, maybe even 17 before it looks cleanest for a move up. So for me, the one that looked the most clean and prepared for a move up out of those like highly liquid large caps currently was Aave. So for my tulip stuff, I actually rotated a little more Ethereum to Aave this morning. Ethereum itself, it's still just cursed by, like, it's Bitcoined itself. You know, like it's just,
Yep.
it moves such small amounts. Like somebody was talking about BNB versus ETH, and it's insane. It's like, here's your January moves, and BNB's 15x, and Ethereum is like not even 2x or something.
Yep.
And like that's a lot of cope for the ETH heads. But
Yeah.
what are you looking at? You got freaking Dogecoin pulled up.
Yeah, I mean, Dogecoin just took ages to break down and then just didn't. I generally think Dogecoin is going to do something like this probably. So Dogecoin is not really too interesting to me. I bought Wi-Fi. I was pretty happy with it for a while. and now like I bought it during the run up, and then now it's basically right back, or like a little bit above, because I bought it a little bit lower.
I think Wi-Fi is interesting because it's really turning the narrative around, and I think they've realized that they screwed up. So I think that might be a worthy retest to buy personally.
Yeah, it's basically this, right?
Yeah, before it moved up, I similarly was like, I don't want to curse it or anything, but Wi-Fi actually looks good now. It didn't do anything because, like, you know, coins like that, they just, when they've not made any relevant move in like 6 months, that's November back there when it made a low. That's hard to convince yourself of. However, fundamentally, they have been finally making changes to where they are creating some attractive yield, and it's interesting to me. Personally, I'm interested in some of the lower caps in the same space. It's hard to buy this one, but like RGT, the Rari Capital, RGT.
RGT.
Yeah.
I don't even know that one.
So Tetranode got me onto this one because, well, he's probably got a massive bag. But I'll pull it up. So it's hard to buy because it's up a freaking ton. But from a yield perspective and from like kind of where it is, it's in reconsolidation at 15, $16. But it's got some volume coming in today. And what I was interested in was that, it's like 100 million cap, something like that. So I feel like it's the type where you question, hey, is this a blue chip in the making that has multiples left in it? You know, like getting to $1 billion cap is not that big of a deal for a DeFi project anymore, and that leaves another 6x for a project like this. You know, so it's all of a sudden it's like, oh, RGT, I could have bought that at 30 cents, and now it's $16. I'm such an idiot. And next thing you look, it's like $80 or $100. It's got a lot of potential. I think it's got a lot of, like, people can create their own pools for lending and borrowing. So stuff like that, I think, is a really interesting concept. Anyway, so too much. That's enough of a shill on that. But Isaac in the chat says Wi-Fi TVL is exploding, and I think Wi-Fi is starting to figure out like how to maintain their moat with yield and then achieve yield well. Like be very dynamic in how they're deploying their strategies. Banteg, the guy that is basically in charge of Wi-Fi now, was tweeting about like, hey, you don't have to worry about the latest thing to ape in on the weekend. We got you covered. And it's like a certain type of pool that, you know, goes and does it for you. And I think that's really where the evolution of this DeFi stuff is going to go, is like invest in something where they take care of all the crazy stuff, you know, and like you're not having to ape everything because they're kind of helping you manage that. I think several of these are interesting on that front.
Yeah, I think in general, the reason why I'm interested is just because, I mean, there's a good chance that my trade gets stopped out, right? But the risk reward is just so insane that I'm just like, okay, it's worth it.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was on RGT. I was like, I don't know, man. It already like went up 8,000% or something for people, but it still looks like a decent value. I don't want to be the person that just refuses to buy something because it's up, you know?
It's the worst thing to do in a bull market, right? When you're just like, I don't want to buy this because it's up, and then it's only up like 5x, and it goes up 50x, and you're like, shit. Totally agree on that front.
What else are you looking at?
I Litecoin, like, I mean, I have a position Litecoin, have a position Wi-Fi. Litecoin is just like, I hope this holds, basically. Yeah, I'm the boring guy. I was in XRP for a little while, not anymore, but probably have to kind of
Uni's
get into
pumping
it
like
again.
mad right now, dude. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I saw that chart. I saw that chart and was like, this is gonna go up, huh?
Yeah, like it's still going
hell.
up. Like it's just going ham right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is news driven or what, but that's good.
We're not doing it.
No, that's good for the rest of DeFi. Like I look at that and I immediately want to buy this, right? I look at Uni pump like that and I immediately want to buy sushi, and just assume it's going to break that resistance that we showed at the beginning of the show. If anybody wants insight on how I look at these things, that's exactly how I do it. I'm like, okay, let's go find its buddy. Like these typically have like multiple pairs that lean in on one another, and one goes and the other one goes because we're all just like chasing the next best thing.
I mean, that's what I did on BitCloud. Did I tell you about it at all?
No.
Like Jake Paul and Logan Paul. I was like, one is trading at really high, the other one isn't. So I'm just going to buy the one that isn't.
Literally the brother.
Yeah. And I mean, Jake Paul went from like on BitCloud, like 6K to like 23 or something. And I mean, that's like how you can play these. It's very difficult to kind of see, okay, is one strong and the other one weak? Or is it like one is strong and the other one is lagging, right? There's a big difference there.
I'm typically willing to play the one is strong and the other is lagging play. Like, I don't mind that play. If I was one of these, 20x by default people, I would probably long sushi 1520, 1530, whatever it is, and I'd play it up to like 1690 because it can probably lag to there just as a laggard, like it doesn't have to be strong to make that trade. That's like my basic low IQ. Okay, let's just go capture the lagging trade because enough people will play it as a laggard rather than a weak, at least for something. Doesn't necessarily mean new highs or whatever, but at least for something, I think that trade could totally exist. And on leverage, if you were going to play it that way, you're getting a little 10, 11%, right? Nice payday. And that's how people look at these things. They just, as few strands of brain necessary to transmit to profit. I
mean, in general, I think it's actually high IQ as long as your target is close, right? Like
you're not saying like, oh, it's going to 50.
Yeah, you're like, oh, Uni went up like 50%, so sushi has to. Like, that's the wrong way to look at it. But you have to be thinking, okay, Uni is going up. People are going to look at sushi as like a trade that is going to follow Uni. So I want to be profiting off of those. And I don't want to be the guy that those people take profit on in the end, right? So you're just kind of getting in early before them. You're front running them, riding them, and then taking profit into them as well. That's kind of the way to look at it, instead of just being like, okay, this is going to go completely mad because the other one did so too. Because like what I see all the time is people play the laggard and then hold it and never sell it. And then it's like, yeah, dude, you just bought the weaker one of the two.
Now you just have the laggard. You didn't have the catch-up trade.
Yeah, it's just like you're not really doing yourself a favor there. Like you generally want to be buying strength, but the kind of like that kind of correlation play is still there. It's just you got to be quick and you got to be not greedy, in my opinion.
Yep. I think that's a good place to probably leave it. The chat is saying that you take that information and you go buy Radium. I don't want to bet against Sam, so you may be right. Chat or the chart, I don't know. It doesn't really tell me anything. So I gave you a shot there, chat. But the fact that that's down 6 or 7% at the same time that Uni's doing that makes me think people aren't super hungry for this trade, at least at the moment. But Duck, why don't we leave it there? You got anything to add?
Nope.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. It has been a pleasure to have you here. Be sure to catch the replays at weeklyopen.com, and you can catch them on YouTube as well. while you're at it, go to weeklyopen.com/blockfolio and download Blockfolio. Give a trade, do a trade there today. One asset to the other. Great experience, 0 fees, fully powered by FTX Books. Thanks so much to the team at Blockfolio for being our partners. Once again, that's weeklyopen.com/blockfolio. And then go to weeklyopen.com, catch the replays of Weekly Open, share it with your friends, all that good stuff. We need your help in that. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you next time.